those Nikes or those medical control schools, as you said it. And as a 15-year-old, that's not terribly cool, you know?
No.
So,
What about in Germany, Max? Was it all the same prevalent brands like Nike, Adidas?
yeah, same brands here. Yeah, same brands.
Any brands that one day one of my buddies from Liverpool that we met at Shawnee, he called ketchup Tommy K, like in the Cracker Barrel, and one of the other guys was like, Martin, no one knows what that is. Stop asking stupid questions. You know, was that a thing or no? Do you know?
I don't remember that being a thing. I mean, well, first of all, he was British, like, right? I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the same language.
Oh,
So that makes a difference. When in Germany, you speak German, so it's a whole different vocabulary. So it doesn't really, you don't.
I don't know if there's European brands that are, you know what I mean,
not
that are
in
prevalent
shoes.
here.
Well,
there,
I mean, there's Adidas,
yeah,
right? There's Puma, Adidas, they're both German brands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all global now, so I think it doesn't really.
You know what sneakers I wanted when I was a kid? I'm talking 5th grade kid.
Yeah.
British Knights.
Yeah.
You guys remember British? You don't remember British Knights?
Negative.
You have no idea what I'm
They
talking
were
about.
never big in Germany. I mean, actually, and this is true, the sneakers I looked up like a week ago and trying to get my hands on were Reebok Pump.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get them in 15. I just don't find them. They're like, because those were the shit to have.
Oh, they absolutely were.
Welcome to the Legacy Angel Network Venture Lounge, where nothing ventured is nothing changed. For Matt Helmenthaler, press 1. For member services, press 2. For real raw startup stories, press 3. For all other questions or concerns, please wait on the line in our
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Helmenthaler, and you're listening to Venture Lounge, after-hour conversations with founders and investors. These are the stories, insights, and conversations that you aren't going to find on the company website. Because the real lessons you learn in the startup world, the risk you take as an entrepreneur, the highs and the lows, the moments in your journey when no one else believes in you right before you break through. Those are the moments that you just have to hear for yourself. So grab a drink and listen in to the men and women who are changing the world. Welcome to the Venture Lounge.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
Welcome back to Venture Lounge, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Connor Sherman, creative director here at Legacy, and I'm sitting on the couch with our founder, Matt Helmenthaler.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Who we got with us, man?
We have my dear friend, Maximilian. We call him Max. I think Max is, you like Max better?
Yeah, Max is good. Yeah.
Okay. Maximilian, if I just call it Max. Yeah, anyway, so Max and I met several years ago through a mutual IP attorney friend.
Yes.
Mr.
John DeAngelis.
John DeAngelis, that's right. John DeAngelis, IP attorney to the stars. He's not paying for this advertising, but John, we love you, buddy.
I'm cutting this out.
That's right.
We need people to sponsor. No free pass.
$500 for that mention.
So John, if you want to leave this in, here's the pay button.
Yeah.
And if you want this version without
We're sending
you,
we're sending you an invoice.
That's right. We lose all the magic if we don't. So that's how I met Max, and I was at the time I was actually working with Tim at Wild Manta. Tim, so I was the head of his business development, part of his business, and yeah, I think that it was hard to miss Max when he walked in for sure. For our watchers that don't know, he's 6'9", so he's a big presence. But that's where we met, and then we got to know each other a little bit more, going to look at a drone thing, and then we stayed in contact a little bit. And Max basically just said, "If you ever find anything interesting,
let me know."
Let me know. And so,
boy, did you, dude?
Well, I actually brought him a couple of things, and I watched Max, who's a full-time investor. I watched Max dice through a couple of different companies in a nice way. He wasn't a jerk about it. I mean, you weren't a jerk about it, but he just diced through these companies and asked them questions, and I'm like, I didn't think to ask that question. I'm just taking notes while Max is talking to these guys, and
I feel like you find out quickly with Max. You're like a pretty you're a big data guy. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
You think in numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and data at the end of the day is objective, right? I mean, there's a number, and it represents a data point. Ideally, you have multiple data points to make sense of it. But yeah, and the nice thing about data is that you can also very clearly see trends. And as an investor, a trend is really what you want to be in with a good trend, because that you can kind of predict the future when you look at the past, especially when it's driven by data. So that really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but even in the short period of time that I've known Max, I feel like I've said things before just listening to you in the room, and you're like running calculations, and those are the questions you're asking. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I was watching him do that with some of these companies, and then I I introduced you to one that you ended up doing some stuff with, and then we ended up becoming friends, and he's a integral kind of part and partner of our group here at Legacy Angel, and really kind of put his weight and his expertise behind us to make us all better and stuff. So I just thought, man, let's get Max to come and talk to us and our viewers.
When did you become a partner here, Max? I'm not sure I know that.
Well, so as soon as once Matt decided to take his thing he did before, where he was basically running around by himself, and
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, he's running by himself. He had a notebook and his phone, and everything was text based, and his notebook or phone, and he was he was raising money for those ventures. And when he said, I really need to put this into a more professional environment, more of a lounge members thing, I said, I remember we met for lunch here in Melbourne, and we walked around, took a walk after, just to be healthy and stuff, around the parking lot, around the lunch place.
Yep.
And I said, let me know what I can do to help you to get it started with. So I basically wrote the first check for getting this place going.
Yep.
And so that we could, incorporate the whole raising funds for companies in the area in a bit more professional and more organized way, and which it's come a long way. I mean, it's really impressive to see what you have built here, Matt.
Well, let me put Matt on the spot here a little bit. When you meet somebody like Matt, right, who's got the entrepreneurial spirit, like he's doing the thing, he's just works really well in the abstract by himself, right? So you don't have much data to go off initially before Legacy has become what it is,
No, sure.
How do you personally make decisions when you meet someone like Matt when there is not much physical data to run off yet? Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, sure. So I mean, I've known Matt for a few years prior, and B, it was clear to me that if he has a team around him, he was already doing well with that stuff, right? He already got funding to companies. I said, if he gets a good team around him and makes it even more professional, there's definitely a good business case you can build around that. There wasn't a lot of the times in venture, especially in early stage angel investing, there isn't much data there. It is, especially in this very early phase, like there wasn't
when you guys met,
Matt, and I knew Matt, and that was it. It also wasn't like a huge investment, It wasn't like when you do angel investing, there's different types of investments. There's smaller checks where you really just do pretty, without much thought, I would almost say, but knowing people and just believing in the idea. And those are usually the smaller checks. I call them smaller, I call them info investments, where you basically hope it works out, but you try to see if it works out and get more data out of it. And if it does in the future, you put more money into it. And then there's investments in companies that are further along the way that have a KPI sheet and can show you the data, and then you invest in this data basically, and what the team has achieved. But in this case, it was really super early, so you can't really expect any data on that, other than knowing the data reflecting me knowing Matt and knowing that he has done it in the past and he will continue to do that. And I would like to be part of this journey. That's interesting, yeah, because at the same time, there's plenty of people that don't have what
you have, which is like high risk tolerance, very social, able to identify opportunities in the abstract, you know. It's just it's a different thing in the startup phase, you know. Like,
So he's obviously Matt's a visionary. So when I
Yes,
saw that,
exactly.
it's okay, he's a visionary. He does his thing. If we manage to get a team around him that keeps things like organized and together, things can only get better.
Yeah.
right.
And he's already doing well as he is. So if we build around that, I expected it to go even better, even further, even bigger, and that's why I want to be a part of it.
Right. Cool.
So cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, no, I was blown away when we went out to lunch, and I was just telling him this idea. I actually, I wasn't even going to ask him for a check. Like, it wasn't even like a thing. It was just he's like, hey, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, y'all already kind of saw the same thing.
Tell me what you need, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. You know, so it was really cool. It was really cool, and it was a guy like Max, and this speaks to who he is and his character. But a guy like Max looking back at me and saying, "I believe in you," that was a big deal. That was a big deal.
Cool,
that actually pushed me over the edge to. I mean, before you even cut a check, to like go ahead and begin to build up this thing out, because I just if Max believes, I don't know. It was a nice shot in the arm.
We didn't even have a contract or anything.
No.
I just gave it. I remember, and we kind of agreed on a deal. And on the check, I put
In the memo,
I put this is for that and that much in the company.
it's as close to a napkin deal as you can.
That's cool. That's cool.
It was basically the deal terms were all in the memo of the check. and
Man, you really need. Do you still have that, Matt?
I can find. I can
must
get
find
it
it in your banking.
I mean, the
Yeah.
bank would have a copy of it.
That'd be
yeah.
a cool thing to hang on the wall. You know what I mean?
definitely.
Yeah.
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 Because,
Although
I mean-
it's got his account number on it.
Yeah, we can
It's
shop
probably
that
blacked
out.
out at this point.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
usually
yeah,
banks
yeah.
usually black. But anyway,
Yeah.
but here's the deal: if you invest that early in a company and without any data really associated to it, you have to believe in the person.
Yeah.
If you don't believe it, don't bother. So if you believe in a person, you trust them, might as well. I could have given him 20,000, whatever it was, in cash, and say, "Here you go. Let me know how it goes." Would have been the same thing because I totally trusted him. And so if you don't trust a person from the get-go, I mean, why bother, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
and it worked out well. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's working out.
here we are.
It's going.
Max, you got to give us your background, man. Where you know who you are, where you're from. Just paint the picture for us.
Yeah. So, so I was born in Munich. I grew up in Munich, Germany. The first 15 years of my life. My dad worked in a bank in Germany first, and then he had his own little business, which was a U.S. commercial real estate business, which kind of got me here in the end. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then when it was I was really bad in school, by the way. I was the worst kid in the whole year. I mean, literally. I just was very bored in school, and I didn't see the point for me learning all those things I didn't think back then were useful for me. So I really struggled in school. I was the worst kid in the whole year, always.
Was there something else that you took much interest in besides school, or were you just disinterested with the education system? What do you think it was?
I don't know really what it was, but it was probably also a good amount of laziness because I just didn't care enough about this stuff. There was only one or two subjects I was good in. It was history. I was pretty decent in because I thought it was interesting.
Right. Well, let me get the question out of the way. Did you play basketball?
A little bit. Nothing crazy though. I know. It's the first time I've been asked this question ever.
Yes, I know. Me too. I can relate.
Never ever been asked this question. So, I missed the draft.
You missed the draft by this much.
I missed the draft 1995. No, 1995 was 17. Yeah. So anyway, no. Yes or no. I played basketball because you just do. I played in school. I played during college, but it doesn't mean I played in a U.S. college team at all. I played whenever I had the chance to, and I enjoyed it, but I was never really that good in it. And yeah, I mean, basically I did rebounds and blocks. That's
Yeah,
pretty
man,
much all
that's
I
the
did.
specialty right there.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I mean,
You are the Dennis Rodman of Germany. We just
That's what I heard.
declared
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
that's
Dennis
all.
Rodman of Germany.
Cheers.
Except the blue hair
Yeah.
or whatever color it is
Blue.
right
A lot
now.
of connotations there.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah.
it's also the best way.
In basketball only. In basketball only.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So,
So you were
gonna say something
was
about
was
what
there
else.
was there something else in school? Like, what were you interested in growing up?
I always liked history a lot. I like not just like the recent history, but all kind of mankind history. I guess science. So now it's like science, history. I love being out on the water, in the water, and obviously at some point I really enjoyed the kind of startup business stuff. I thought like, shit, I don't really need school. I could just start something myself, and you know, who's going to ask me for my grades ever again? Well, that was the idea back then. I still had to basically go to school. My parents said that, but I was 15 actually. I remember when I was 15, I came back from school. I was really like, I was done with it. I said, you know, this is it. I'm not going back to school. I don't care. You guys can, you know, whatever you do, my parents, I'm not going to go back to school. I think it's a total waste of time, and it's not for me. And then my parents, my dad, he knew somebody in like a computer. Now you call it e-commerce company. They sold like hardware and stuff like that. Back then it was on the phone via catalog. And so he's like, you know what? Okay, you can go to work. And he basically put me into this warehouse where I worked every day from like, I think it was like 7 o'clock till 4. And I had an hour to get there. An hour, but I had to take a bus and train a bus again to get there.
Oh my goodness.
But I still loved it. Like my parents thought I wouldn't, but I loved it. And after like 4 weeks, I had like 1,000 euros. Was it mark? No, it was actually back then it wasn't even euros. It was marks and 1,200 marks. I thought that's it. I'm done. Like I mean, all the money I ever need.
You made it.
You know? And so then, but my parents said, no, there's no way you got to go back to school. And so we agreed to try out something different. So I went to an English boarding school. I remember my mom taking me to this place, which is like an advisory place for which school is good for you. And so this lady asked me, so what do you like? I said, well, since it's an island, I'd love to be on the ocean somewhere. You know. And so I ended up in a school called Russell School in Lancashire, which is the Irish Sea. It was on the ocean, which is basically the Irish Sea in this case, which is one of the dirtiest pieces of ocean out there.
Beautiful, scenic.
So you couldn't swim there.
Right.
You couldn't swim.
Yep.
But it was still on the ocean. It was fun. I had a good time there. And I still was good to school, though. It didn't help. And after that, I went back to Germany, and I started a banking apprenticeship, which is a program where, and I actually chose that because I think banks was kind of pretty interesting. I chose that because it's like a 2-year program where you have both. You work in a bank in all the different departments, and then you also have school, but only solely focused on banking stuff like finance, bookkeeping, like accounting, you know, this kind of stuff. So I did that for 2 years. I really enjoyed it, and I was okay at it. So I got a little bit better. From the bottom, like 5% of school, I was like somewhere in the middle at this point. And after that, I actually had to do a civil service in Germany. Germany had to do, back then, they don't have anymore. You had to do the civil service or military.
Oh, wow.
So So I said, I'm not going to do military because I don't want to be sitting in a military camp somewhere for like, I don't know, half a year. So I did civil service where you basically, for like 10 months, 11 months, you had to go to, in my case, it was I had to go to elderly people who live by themselves and help them with their daily stuff. Shopping, cleaning, stuff like that.
That's refreshing.
Yeah.
That a community would be like, hey, one or the other, but like both are good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like that's awesome. I
think
it wouldn't fly in America, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like that's awesome.
And you know, it's actually when I did that, I thought, you know, I don't know how old I was, I'm at 20, whatever. You see people who basically can't leave their apartment anymore because they just can't. And you're the only like lifeline to the outside world. You kind of realize, shit, I should be really happy with where I am right now. I'm 20 years old and I'm not making any money, but you still have the whole life ahead of you. Yeah. And those people are like whatever 80 and they can't leave the house anymore, and you need to go shopping for them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And after that, I went to college in London, back to the UK because I liked living in England, which was a European business school, where I did international business and management studies with a finance major.
Wow.
So that was fun, and I really enjoyed it. And again, because I could choose again what I wanted to do, I was like in the top third there. So I kept becoming better the more I could choose my own path. It makes sense. So yeah, but and then after that right after university, I remember I flipped through this career guide book, and it had like stuff like banking in it, and I looked at basically I knew I wanted to be in banking, and I looked at all those different banking, like private banking, investment banking, M&A kind of stuff. So I compared the income, basically, and thought, okay, M&A it is. Because it says back then.
Again, like, a data man. You just
back then it was like 99, was like 2005. That's your starting salary is like 80,000 euros, which for 25-year-old back in the days was like a ton of money. Yeah. So yeah, definitely I'm going to do M&A. Little did I know that when you start M&A, it's not you're not doing only cool deals. You just basically you do presentations and PowerPoints and Excel sheets, and I totally hated it. So I left that after like 3 months, and actually went then to work for my dad, which was commercial real estate, for a little while, who then unfortunately passed away like half a year later. So I ended up with this company, it wasn't big, it was a few people, but I sold, and then I had a few $100,000 basically to start. And what I forgot to mention was during my banking apprenticeship, it was like 96, 97, we already started 98, 99, we started our first online company, me and a couple of friends. So it was like kind of eBay kind of thing, like a flea market online. And we did it on the side, and I love the idea of being able to have all those potential customers there, just being online, right? Yeah. So after I sold that company, I said, why don't I just do what I wanted to do, which is start or be part of a online company or internet-based business.
Were there other like companies coming up around you that you were watching, like certain inspiration to do that? Where'd that come from?
It was super early days still. I mean, it was like 96, 97, 98.
So what were your references at that time?
Basically the first kind of, the reference were really just the first search engines, where you basically, back in the days, you still had to list your website. Like, back in the days, it wasn't like a search engine, it was like a tree you follow. So you go, okay, which side do I want? I want to do sports, whatever. You click on sports, and then you can go, which sport, baseball, and you click, whatever, which team, click on the team, then you saw this website associated to it. So you had to basically click your way through to find a result of a site, right? And then if eBay started coming around after that shortly, and we did all that, and we did like banner exchange to get our site known, all that kind of stuff. And as talked before, I mean, the goal was to have your link to your website on as many different other web pages as possible, so the search engines thought you were important, so they ranked you higher. That was the name of the game back then. So I did all that in the early days, and then when I had a little money spare, I said, okay, I want to either start something myself, or I want to be part of a few companies. And since this was really all I had, except I had a little bit of a safety net, so I owned a few. Well, my dad passing away so early, and my parents being divorced, I owned a few like apartments, which were paying rent. So I knew, worst case scenario, I'm going to lose all the money, and I'm still going to have that money, which is going to pay at least for, for the minimum I need. And so I didn't really worry about it too much. And so instead of founding one company, I just basically tried to invest or be like the first money in, or as soon as early in as possible, into several companies. And so I started. That was like 2007. I made my first investment, and it crashed and burned after like 2 months. And I remember one was luckily it was only a small amount of money, but there was like the founder, 2 young founders, seemed like kind of, they knew what they're doing, they're building homepages and all that kind of stuff. It was like a company where you could build your own homepage, just clicking it together and have your own homepage. And they would run ads on your homepage, so that's how they make money, right? So I remember one day I came into the office, and there was sort of founder opening up the letters with the bank receipts. Looking at the bank receipt and just putting it in the trash. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I looked at it and put it in the trash. Why? What do you mean?" I said, "Have you ever heard about bookkeeping? Like you need to keep those things and put it give it to your accountant." And he didn't even know what the hell accountant was. So
that's
stuff like that.
That's when you started sweating about your investment.
Yeah, that's okay. That's basically wrote off. And the funny thing is that actually this is when I learned where you shouldn't really put bad money into good money, is because his uncle, who was like a bank CEO, kept pouring money into his company, round after round after round. It didn't go anywhere.
Oh, wow.
I said, like, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, it's my nephew and all that kind of stuff." I said, "This is going to be..." But anyway, that was 2007. Luckily, I had two, 3 other investments as well in that round, which did pretty well. One of them IPO'd a year and a half ago. It's now doing $150 million revenue a year. So luckily, I also hit a few good ones early on. Because here's the problem in angel investing: is if you start on a bad foot, if you start on poorly, and you lose all your initial money immediately, it's not a great starting point. That's why you have to really do multiple investments to kind of get a good portfolio together, to not rely on one founder or one team or one company. And so, yeah, I luckily did that and had a few early successes that basically paid back the whole portfolio several times. So that's what made it possible for me to do this full time for now 16 years. If that hadn't happened like that, I couldn't have done that.
Well, let's go into the imaginary place where it didn't happen. Let's go into the Maximilian dream world. What do you think you would have done?
Yeah,
I'm really curious about this. 'Cause I didn't know some of this. Like, you and I have known each other a while. Some of the stuff you mentioned, I did not know.
Yeah.
So what do you think you would have done?
So yeah, I mean, luckily I had a pretty decent degree from a pretty good school. So that was my safety net, as weird as it sounds, would have been something like some consultancy.
Okay.
Like where it's a job a lot of people love doing, but I would have done it because to make money, but or some banking. I was offered a job during my banking apprenticeship to just stay in the bank, basically. To go back to that, I could have just done that. I loved the trading desk. So when you go to this banking apprenticeship, you do 6 weeks of every department basically, and I loved the trading desks, and that was really cool. So I would have done something like that probably, either consultancy or banking. So I had a pretty decent safety net. I had my degree, my banking apprenticeship. I had some income from apartments. And my granddad was also a pretty wealthy guy, so who was still alive till a few years ago. He turned 99 years old. And
wow,
99, you said?
Yeah, he actually passed away 3 months before his 100th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, so I knew I would be okay because there would be some more coming. I always knew I would be okay, so I just went for it. Because knowing I worst case is I'm going to be making an average income with those apartments plus whatever I earn.
Worst case, you're going to do what everyone else does.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could go for it. I had no downsides. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I go all in with this money I had, cash? I mean,
cheers, man. That's awesome. I love that story.
Was that a conclusion you came to by yourself, or your father and your grandfather, were they big influences in your life?
So no, they really weren't that much. Like my grandfather was he was a pretty wealthy man, but he just decided to be a farmer, and he didn't want to have anything to do with that stuff. He bought a farm after he came back from the war. He was a prisoner of war in Russia for like 4 years.
Oh wow!
So he came back like barely alive, and he studied agriculture and bought a farm, and that was it. He didn't want to do anything with finance or business or anything like that. He just wanted to run his farm. So he was a very, very, very low key guy. And my dad, he did this U.S. commercial real estate business, which I kind of was good. Basically, was advising German investors to purchase U.S. commercial real estate. That was a thing in Germany in the 80s and 90s because it was never clear how the whole Russia situation would evolve. And I mean, it's as current as ever, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's why a lot of German people who were wealthy had some assets in the U.S. The U.S. was always seen as a safe haven kind of thing, which it still is, in my view, to this point. So no, not really. Especially then had nothing to do with internet or how could they? Because I mean, that was 152.
Right.
I remember I did his homepage for his business, and he was on the phone in his office, and I was sitting at home. And he goes, "Yeah, if you could change this and this a little bit like this, that'd be great." I said, "It's already done." He was like magic. How did you do that? I said, hit refresh on your Netscape browser. Hit refresh, and he goes, "How do you do that? Like you weren't even here." That kind of thing, right? I mean,
yeah, you're really amazing.
So I did a lot of that, using stuff like Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver.
Oh, I remember Dreamweaver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I did all that stuff for him. But I was always fascinated with computers. My parents had no idea about it. I built my own computers since I was like, I don't know, 15. I just went to the shop and bought the parts and built it together myself, and just I found it was the most exciting thing on this planet. Like many guys in my age at that time, really. And then same thing, my parents, and then when you were able to go online, you actually had to pay per minute to go online. And I remember we had that one phone line, it was always blocked. I was online all the time. My mom got really upset, and she said, that's it, I'm going to get a second phone line. I don't know what year it was. I was living at home still. And so after like 5 days, I figured out I could also use both lines and double my speed. So both lines are blocked.
Oh, dial-up.
That's amazing.
It was still dial-up, for sure. So that was fun. And then obviously, I was always fascinated by the stuff, and that's why I wanted to build the business around that. And we did that during my bank apprenticeship. And then once I had some cash, I said, now I want to go professional in a sense.
Right.
Do you think there's ever a possibility? I don't know. Maybe we could fly Max's mom here one time and have her sit actually in your seat, Max. You can sit over there. And I just want to ask her, what was it like raising Max? Give me all the dirt. Like, I bet she's got some stories. I love that story about how you found you could use the second line. That's freaking hilarious.
Were you an only child, by the way, or do you have other siblings?
I have one sister. She's 2.5 years younger than I am.
Okay, right on.
She lives in Germany, in Munich. She didn't move. She's still there. She's married. Has 3 kids. And,
that's awesome.
She's doing well. Yeah.
No,
but nothing like me, and nothing like in the online world, entrepreneurial and like that. But she's doing great.
Awesome.
So you have a big family too.
Me personally, yes.
Personally,
you could say so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that, Max, because that's why I was curious where you're. I mean, 5 kids is ambitious, man. 5 kids is ambitious.
Yeah,
pretty
so
awesome.
We have 5 kids. They're between 11 and a half and 3. It's been crazy. I think it's fair to say the crazy house. And they're doing. I mean, when we moved here, Our oldest was, I think, 5 or 6. And the younger ones, obviously, accordingly, the youngest one wasn't even born yet. And so they spent the last 6 years in the US, so they're essentially US kids with a German passport. Except my youngest one, who was born here, right here in Melbourne, 4 years ago. Man, time flies. Anyway, yeah, so 5 kids, they all do well. Luckily, they're much better in school than I am. Ironically, this is a funny story. Ironically, so I was literally the worst kid in the year. Like, not by behavior. I was always a nice kid, but like great. I was like F's and D's.
Yeah.
My wife was always the best student in the whole grade. She actually skipped a grade and still had just straight A's. So luckily, my kids got that from my wife. And I don't have to deal with that. Because I remember this was a lot of stress for my parents and myself. Yeah. Another D, another F. Like, where's this going to go? What's this kid going to do?
You're worried there.
So luckily they're doing very well, much better than I do in school. And that's very refreshing. Since I don't know and then also my wife takes care of all that kind of stuff. I don't have to deal with that. She's much better with that and also just quite frankly, much smarter. So
see, I can relate with that completely because I always struggled in school. I wasn't interested in it. I felt like it was like a prison sentence before I could get out and start doing what I wanted to
100%.
do. And then, but my wife, we met in high school. After we got married out of high school, started having some kids and stuff. She goes back to school, and she just straight A's. She's absolutely brilliant. So our kids, any smarts they have, they 100% got from my wife, completely, 100%.
And I feel I don't know, maybe we're just lazy, but I think maybe not, and maybe the school is just, some kids are just more made for school than others. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know the answer. Maybe, I was lazy too, but maybe was I lazy because I was bad, or was I bad because I was lazy? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, no, there's something about the education system that is maybe feels outdated, and I know there's a lot of education professionals that I'm sure are trying to change and update that. Yeah, but it's built for a certain kind of person, and it's not. It doesn't
attention. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, me too.
For me, I just couldn't pay attention.
Right. I just drew in class the whole time. That was kind of my thing, but nice. that was profitable actually. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why yeah, and also I remember I wanted to do my stuff I really liked, and it didn't really fit very well with the school schedule. So, and then obviously parents have expectations too, right? I remember after school, I told my dad, I have a good idea. So I always liked the ocean, history, science, and also at some point, I like biology. I thought it was pretty cool. Later in life, not as a 10, 12-year-old. And so I did some research and I found this great school in Hawaii. I told my dad, what if I go to Pacific, whatever it's called, University in Hawaii, and do marine biology? And he goes to me, look at me like, how about you work in a bank for 2 years? Right here in Munich. I guess I could do that too, but yeah, it was called Hawaiian Pacific University, and I wanted to do marine biology actually, yeah. And no, that was not gonna fly. And anyway, but then I did this other stuff, and I really enjoyed it too.
So what was part of your move to the U.S. and Florida a part of your love for the ocean, the coast? You know what I mean? Is that why you're here?
So part of this U.S. commercial real estate company I was referring to before was a portfolio. So my granddad, he also owned a building here in the U.S., which was a bank building in Vero Beach. So I remember when we got to Vero Beach, I was in Vero Beach the first time, 2004 or 5, I don't remember which year it was, but it was September 04, 05. It was nothing going on. It was because Vero Beach has always been very seasonal, but back then it was even more seasonal. September it was dead. Yeah. I thought, are you sure this is a good idea to buy this place here? So anyway, we did buy this. My granddad bought that building. And when I took over the company, And I just sold the company, but not the assets, because it didn't belong to me. So I was in charge of flying back here like once a year, checking the building, make sure everything's okay, meeting the managers, all that kind of stuff. So I did that since 2004, 5 until now. And I always liked Florida. I thought this was pretty cool. I had been in Florida before. My dad actually, in a second marriage, he was married to a woman from Florida. Oh. So I'd been here before, and I really enjoyed Florida. Really cool lifestyle, the ocean, like endless summer kind of vibe. And I mean, what's not to like, right? So I come back every year, and at some point I started bringing my girlfriend, now wife. Let me just do my job, and then maybe we do another week or two, and just tour Florida or like the southeast of the U.S. and just get a rental car and just drive around and see what's up. So we did it for many years, and then in 2011 we did like an extended 6-week stay here. We rented a house on the ocean. Our oldest son was just like a few weeks old, and we really loved that. And then I sold a bunch of companies in 2016. One was like a turnaround that went really well. One was like a lead generation company. We sold to a major network in Germany. And we said, why don't we do like a sabbatical now? Like just go to the US for a year or two and see how we like it. Just take just everything went really well so far. And that's just I don't know. I always like, it's weird when everything goes really well, I like to mix it up a bit. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. I guess I like the journey more.
I am learning that.
Yeah.
I like the journey more than than having that wherever. So I said, instead of keep doing what I do here in Germany, let's just go to Florida for a year, maybe 2, and see how we like it. So we actually looked at Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Vero Beach. Vero Beach because I know in a new Vero Beach, and Miami and Fort Lauderdale because it's just what it is, right? And we just liked Vero Beach the most because it's the most old school Florida, a lot of space. We found a beautiful house on the water, and you just have huge water views and the dolphins swimming by and pelicans and all that stuff. So I think this is, for a 2-year sabbatical, this is the spot. It's quiet, it's peaceful, great place, good school around the corner for the kids. So we did that, and we chose Vero Beach, and we kept extending because we liked it so much. And now it's been 7 years. I mean, it's definitely a great place to live. I mean,
but just changing your locale has obviously introduced you to complete lifestyle and business change for you. You know what I mean?
And that's the cool part, right? I mean, this is when you. I personally believe that the most exciting things in life happen outside your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's at. And I think sometimes you have to take a leap of faith and just go for it.
Yep.
And I was saying, what's the worst case that can happen, right? The worst case for us was we don't like it. We go back after 8 weeks, and that's that.
Right.
Back when I was starting, worst case, I lose my $200,000 I had, and I go back to work on a regular job. So you always look at the worst case, take a leap of faith, look at the worst case scenario, and just go for it.
Yep.
There's just so many people with that exact opposite mentality, Max, where it's just, it appears to me it's so easy to, some people would actually prefer to stay at a place that they hate than have to deal with change or the possibility of something better.
The unknown. The unknown.
Yeah, I get that. Change, first of all, is kind of scary for a lot of people. But when you think it through, and I always take the approach, what's the worst that can happen? And if that's not something crazy,
right,
then I'll go for it.
Especially if you're like us and you live in probably the best time in the history, richest country in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the rock bottom is not that deep for Americans,
Yeah, and it was the same. I left Germany in 2016. I just had sold 2 companies that did really well. With those ventures, I could have just raised a fund or keep going or whatever. It was very cozy, cushy. We had a nice house. We still have the house. We never sold it. Have a nice, beautiful house. Everything was good. And we said, let's just try something different. And we actually did the same thing when during the pandemic, we said, everything is like kind of closed. Let's do something different. We wanted to actually go to Singapore for a year or two. It didn't happen because they didn't give us a visa. So I researched what kind of countries in Southeast Asia would you get a visa much easier. So we ended up in Thailand for like half a year and put the kids in school there and just had a house in Phuket, and which we rented, and we had a blast, you know. And it was half a year, and then said, this is enough. Fine, we can't live here for good because it's very remote. It's on the other side of this planet. So if you want to do business with Florida, 7 a.m. is 7 p.m. So you can. When I dialed into those meetings at Seafarer, which was like 10:30 a.m., it was 10:30 p.m. for me. So it's impossible to do business in the U.S. from Southeast Asia. You can do business across the U.S., you can do business in Europe, vice versa, but Southeast Asia is just so far away. So we enjoyed it for half a year, and then we came back to Florida, you know.
But I like your mentality on life, Max. It's like that saying, best time to fix the roof is when it's sunny outside. Have you heard this before?
Yeah.
Just the need for change, like do new thing. Kind of thing.
No. Yeah. I do enjoy that. And it's, And again, you're right. A lot of people don't understand that. But I think you have to have lived it to understand it a little bit like that. And here's the deal. If I hadn't done it, I've never met you guys. I would never met all those exciting companies right here, the whole community. I never lived in Florida for 6-7 years, which I really love. And my kids wouldn't have the experience of growing up bilingual. I mean, we have to obviously make sure that they speak German because it's really hard because they're in school all day.
Oh, no, that's really powerful, man.
So them it's like, And it's funny because first, when they were younger, they didn't like understand why we speak a different language at home. Because my wife is German, I'm German. We grew up basically in the same kind of neighborhood, kind of thing almost, right?
You still speak German at home, yeah?
Oh yeah, all day. And I'm sure me and my wife, we lived in Germany all our lives, right?
Yeah.
Except from a few years in the UK. Yeah. If you took your wife and you moved to Germany,
right,
you would speak English at home.
Right.
So anyway, so we speak German at home all day, every day. The kids speak German to us at home. English, they speak to each other, they speak in English. But to us, they speak German, and the German is almost as good as a German person, I would say. But anyway, the first time we got back to Germany, they were like, look like this, looking around, like, holy shit, they all speak German. Like, they thought this was like a family thing, right? No, it's like there's a few more than us.
There's more of us.
Then you could see them thinking, wow,
That's
I can actually,
funny, man.
Like, holy shit, I can like communicate in both countries.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, they didn't get that, until they did.
That's really, really cool.
So tell us about what you got involved down here, Max. We've been talking to these Seafarer exploration guys all morning. That's, I know, a big part of your journey here and Sailfish. And tell us about it.
Yeah.
So let me start with Sailfish. So Sailfish is a craft beer brewery down in Fort Pierce, Florida. It was founded, I think, almost 10 years ago, but it started very small.
We had the founder on the podcast, Bobby Boucher.
Exactly. So
right?
he
Bobby
told a story.
Bobby Boucher, that's right.
Have you seen this movie, Max? Come on.
Waterboy. Have you seen Waterboy?
No.
Okay, so you had
classic
Adam
American
Sandler,
reference.
He plays Waterboy, and his name's Bobby Boucher.
This is a classic piece of Americana, Max. How long have you been here?
Like David, like people would call him Bobby. Like, so yeah, your friend David was called Bobby because of his last name.
That's funny.
You got to see it. It's
classic.
irritating and funny.
As soon as I said that on his podcast, or when you were watching it, it was like, never heard that before. It was
H2O.
But
I watched the podcast, obviously.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
No. Anyway, so I came across the company in 2017. They typical startup. They had a great idea, great vision, amazing brand. The brand hasn't changed. We haven't touched the brand at all. It's like this flag, the Sailfish.
Yeah, that seemed to all happen real organically.
Amazing beer, but everything else was like really startup style. Like everything was like, everybody was doing everything. Accounting wasn't really existent. It It was, but nobody really knew the margins. And so I came in and just helped in the first couple of 2-3 years. A lot of had to do with just cutting a check because they had to buy this new piece of equipment. And which the crazy part was back then, they bought equipment which was basically some of it like paid itself off in literally in months, because it was if you produce a good amount of beer and you can basically save 10% of waste, then you have it, amortized very quickly. So it was partially just making sure they have enough funding, then making sure that the accounting gets in shape, making sure we know how much money we make per SKU, like how much money we make per the 6-pack, 12-pack can, a 16-ounce can or kegs. That was really important because nobody had an idea, basically, in the very early days. So and to go back to the data, just basically collect as much data as possible, have a KPI sheet of like 20, 30 data points, have a goal where those data points need to be, and then work towards making sure every single data point goes in the right direction. And that's what we did for 3, 4, 5 years. And at some point, it became apparent to me that they now are such a great company they don't need me anymore. So I'm really helpful in the first few years. Like now, Dave has totally outgrown me. Like I cannot help him anymore. He's just so much further ahead in the game. Like I never managed 60 people. I haven't.
That's got to be an ideal scenario in your position, man, that you help him grow to the point where he's just taken off. You just let him run you.
I could really help him in the early days. Like when I knew this has to be like this was very good. The margins, bookkeeping, accounting, let's buy new equipment, let's get some more cash into the company, all that kind of stuff, like strategic planning. I could help with all that. Until about 2 years ago, when I called him and say, hey, Dave, have you thought about this and this and this? Well, I have an idea. Let's do this and this and this. He goes, oh, yeah, we already thought about that. And you do it like 10 times, and you realize, okay, those guys don't need me anymore. Like they have it figured out now, and they don't need me anymore, and they basically outgrow me, which is the best case scenario, because that's what you want. So you can focus on the next kind of company, right? So Selfish has been doing really, really well.
And there's a lot of magic, I feel like, in that company where like they're so data driven on the back end. There's so much math to what they do. But on the flip side, like on the customer facing side, their brand is like really popping, really relevant. Yeah. Dave said it himself, like the unofficial uniform of Fort Pierce,
100%.
Right? And that all just feels so effortless on the front end. Yeah. It doesn't feel forced. It's just a part of the culture.
People want to be part of Selfish. They love the brand. They love the hard work that was put into it. The very honest brand. It's like very, those guys started this brand, as Dave probably told you, in a bathtub, like on a side hustle, worked until 3 a.m. and then went back to a job. And this mentality and this pureness, I would probably say, and this honesty is still in the brand. And the beer is also just really good beer.
Yep.
And that helps a lot. So
yeah,
this company is still, and it seems like they've come such a long way, which they have, but it's still in the early phases in the grand scheme of things. It's still a small brewery, kind of. Still a regional local brewery. It's all over Florida, but it really is, it's mostly between Vero Beach and Key West, except Miami, because Miami is really a different beast. But no, it's doing really well. I just got the news that it got picked up by Walmart.
Oh, wow.
Because of the data. So there's this really cool, again, data you can pull. It's scan sales data that shows you how well you do compared to your peers or competitors. And in the Miami division, which is Key West to I think Melbourne now, or Vero Beach, one or the other. Our IPA is now number 3 best-selling IPA.
Amazing, man.
In all the stores. And
That's
we are
incredible.
only in like 40% of the stores. So if we were in all of them, we would be even higher in the list. So companies like Walmart see that list and obviously take you on then, because they say, well, obviously people like that beer.
Right.
So no, they've come really a long way. They don't really need me anymore that much. I'm still there if they do. But I realized that in the last year and a half, they just outgrew me. I mean, again, Dave is now managing like 50, 60 people. I have never done that. So I can't really help him anymore.
I think that's what you always want to do as a founder. Like, I think even Dave's going to find himself eventually in a place where he's going to want to look around and be like, don't tell anyone, no one needs me. There's like, no one needs me here. I'm hoping for that day to come here at Legacy, where I look around the room and I'm like, yeah, no one really.
It's like when you
I'm a part of it, but no one really needs me. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's health. Working yourself out of a job.
Talking about our lunch, actually.
Yeah.
It's very similar with kids. You want to raise them so they don't really need you anymore. They become self-sufficient. They make intelligent choices.
Yeah, man.
And they manage their own life and they get along. Obviously, they can come back to you and ask you stuff and be there. You'll be there for them. But ideally, they don't need you anymore. Ideally, they get their own life managed and care for themselves and become independent.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really very similar.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I like that analogy. And from there, I mean, were you getting involved in these different startups that you're a part of now here in Florida at the same time, or did they just kind of was it a domino effect?
Yeah, it's sure. The bigger your network gets, the more you see. That was always the case. No matter where you go, it makes sense because you have stuff coming in. I never had like a homepage or a website or any major stuff because I didn't want to have just deals come in unfiltered, because I was just a one-man show and I couldn't really look at all those deals. So if you have it coming from a network, you have a first line of defense basically in your friends and family or whoever network who does or does not forward your deal, right? So all the BS is basically filtered out. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff which never is going to make anything anywhere. Which, by the way, you can also be very wrong about that. I had this one little story which is pretty funny and not funny. It was like 2011, and I somehow this Russian dude sent me an email. I don't know how I got the email from, but he just sent me an email. Hey, I got this great investment for you. I'm building a crypto wallet. And I was like, what the hell is a crypto wallet? And he goes, well, it's this wallet where you basically store your Bitcoin once you bought it. And I say, what's Bitcoin? And they said, you know what, let me look at it. Because I was like, I thought, let me look into this stuff. I've never heard of this. I want to learn. So I said, I'll email you back next week and let you know what I think. So I looked at there and Googled Bitcoin and I looked at the chart. It's at $3. And the chart's like this, like a hockey stick. And I thought, this is going to collapse. Like, this went up from like 3 cents to $3 in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Dude, this is going to be imploding on you in no time. Thank you, but I'm out. Anyway, so, you always kind of...
What's Bitcoin at now, Max? Do you know?
I don't even know. I think I'm not a Bitcoin... I don't believe in Bitcoin.
Right.
It's probably going to get a lot of comments now in this.
Yeah, you can see it already on the Twitter thread.
I think it's a dumpster fire. But I think it's like $16,000 right now.
Oh, wow.
It was at 60. I remember I had a tweet.
It's 21,764.
Yeah, I even had I remember I did a tweet around Thanksgiving, for like shout out to everybody who talked their family into buying Bitcoin last year. Have fun.
Yeah,
but it was like at like $70,000.
It's about to be interesting. Yeah.
And it was like a 16 then. Just to really quickly touch on that, I don't see it going anywhere. It's not a store of value as we've seen in the last 2 years. It's because if you have a store of value, which might be half next year, it's not a great store of value. It's not a means to pay anything, so it's not really a payment thing. And it doesn't have any other use cases other than if you are a criminal and trying to pay other people. So I don't see it going anywhere. And also the problem is that you need a slightly inflationary currency for our economic model to work. Our economic model is based on growth of a small, not as big as now, a small inflation. That's how it all works. If you have a fixed amount of Bitcoin I don't think it's going to work. Besides the fact that the government needs to have control of it, or not the government, but the central bank needs to have control over it to steer the economy. Like if you get inflation like this now, and the central bank wouldn't have control over interest rates and stuff like that, I mean, what do you do? Like, so I just don't see it. I was invested in a company actually who a friend of mine founded. It was an alternative to Ethereum, and it was another. So I invested a good amount of money because I really trusted the guy, and he was a really good guy. It was like a few years ago. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is something. So
right.
I remember this.
I put like $300,000 into it, and yeah, me and my crypto, right?
Sorry, dude.
So I put $300,000 into it, and it was a really nice guy. And he's a great guy. He still is. He's a super smart guy, and Stanford computer science guy, and UPenn PhD. Those kind of people. So I think if he put his time and money into this is probably makes sense.
Yeah.
So I bought those tokens, and their thing was we're going to be Ethereum. We're going to be much faster, much cheaper. Because the one issue they have with transactions is the gas price. Basically, the cost to transact is super high. It's like crazy high. And with this model, would have been like 1,000th or 1/10,000th of the cost. So I bought the stuff, and it went like down, up, down, up, down. And then I thought, I don't know, I'm not sure about it because I saw a new use case. There was no use case coming up, and stuff got delayed. I saw all those red flags. They hired a private chef because they thought it would be cheaper. Like, all those kind of things.
That's wild,
where you as an investor said, well, this is maybe a red flag. And so I, then I went back up again to where I went in. So I sold everything. So I got my basically $300,000 back.
What is it about crypto? Like, what's the merit there that has really smart people interested in it?
I can tell you in a minute, because I sold my stuff, all my coins for $300,000, and I forgot about it. I checked back 9 weeks later, how much it would have been worth now. $15 million.
Really?
So,
whoa.
Here's the deal. Did I not make $50 million? No. Why? Because I would have sold it at 2-3x, right? I would have sold it at, I don't know, $600,000-$900,000. It's like the same people who bought, if I had bought Bitcoin at $3 back in the days, I wouldn't have made $20,000 of Bitcoin because I would have sold it at like $10, $12. Because if you make 2, 3, 4, 6 times your money, and it's liquid, you can sell it any time, you start to think, right?
Yeah,
you just sell. So I look back at stuff, but I never like pissed. Well, I mean, I was briefly pissed, but I was never really like pissed that I didn't make that money, because I think, okay, what did I think back then? Why did I make this decision? And looking back at it, I think it was the right call to make. So, and you always have those things. You always mess up. I mean, if you don't learn.
There were a bunch of our guys that made a decent amount of money off of Ethereum.
Yeah.
Back in the early days of probability and statistics, when Don and those guys were selling the racks that mine the Ethereum, and so these guys would buy the racks, and then it would start mining the Ethereum, and then it would pay for the racks over a certain amount of time. I remember that. And then it was
I talked to Don about that.
Yeah, because you were looking at doing your own personal one. You were looking at some sort of cube thing or whatever.
I actually had this one. It was with a buddy of mine. We actually drove to Tampa. There was this huge Ethereum mining rig for sale in a container.
Yeah,
which is pretty rad in a container. And the guy asked, I don't know, it was like $70,000 for it. Back then, Ethereum was like at 160. Mm-hmm. And we didn't pull the trigger because it's like how do you get the container back to Vero and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean. Yeah, a lot of people made money on that. I met a lot of people who made millions and millions of dollars on this stuff because it didn't sell. But the problem is, if I own stock in a company and the company does really well and grows and grows and grows and grows, I have fundamentals I can look at. I have fundamentals that make sense. Okay, I'm still at 3 times earnings or whatever you want to say, 10 times earnings, whatever. And this still makes sense.
Right.
Why would I sell? It keeps growing every year with 30, 40, 50%. And the multiples are going to stay the same, so why sell, right? If you are in a void, if you have no no fundamental whatsoever, like crypto, you don't know if it's cheap or expensive. It's worth as much as the next person is willing to give you for it.
Right.
That's the whole thing. That's the benchmark.
Yeah.
Right.
There is no fundamentals. There's no,
I mean, I would imagine too that, and I think most people, I mean, likely several people would agree with that, and they would think, of course, I would do it this way. But also too, you're a full-time investor, so I think that you see a lot of that differently. You know what I mean? I mean, like you're being a full-time investor and taking your money and scattering it in the different companies that you do. I mean, I think that sometimes if you're seeing the 4 or 5x return, you're like, yeah, I'm going to sell so I can start doing this in another company. Like, you know what I mean? Like you probably have a system and a process that would prevent you from holding on tight to see if it goes up to 21,000. You know what I mean? Like you have a disciplined, I would imagine, a disciplined process.
Yeah, well, yes and no. Yes, I try to do that. And no, very often when you are invested into a privately held company, you can't just sell your stuff very easily. I have a few companies where, like I have one company I invested in, it's called Thala. It's an amazing company, amazing founder. She's just brilliant. And shout out to Shivani Shiroya. I invested in the company in 2016 when my buddy Johnny Lee, also like a Stanford, those Stanford guys, he was the CTO. And he called me one day. He said, "Hey, I'm CTO of the company now. We are growing like crazy. So what they do is they do micro loans to people in developing countries solely based on your mobile phone data. So 3-4 billion people don't have a credit score. They're invisible in the financial world. There's not many banks there. However, they do have a mobile phone. They have a cell phone, which collects all kind of data. So they built a app that takes all this data, and with this data, decides whether or not this person is creditworthy. So they built this app. People have just a phone, and they don't have usually no address, and that you can't really reach them if they don't pay. Well, they built this app so well with machine learning and AI and everything. They have a 98% repayment rate.
Jeez, that's wild. Man.
Yeah, and those are people who basically leap from the Stone Age to the mobile digital age because there was nothing in it. There was no brick and mortar banks, like Kenya or wherever it was. It just didn't exist. So those people literally leap from the Stone Age to the mobile tech digital age, and now they have those mobile wallets in their hands, and that's And anyway, so the guy calls me. Really good friend of mine. So that's why a network is so important. Said, hey, I know this company. They're doing really well. They're going to raise a bridge round until their first seed round. Until I think Series A or B, whatever it was. It was 2016. Like I'm going to send you a pitch deck. I need to know tomorrow, because if next week all those big VCs come back, it was some holiday kind of thing, and they're going to do it basically. Do you want to do it? I said, give me an hour. So I looked at the pitch deck and holy shit, like this is amazing. And the potential is just huge, and they did really well, and the people involved with us phenomenal. So I said, sign me up. So that's why it's so important to have people who you trust and who you know in a network to send you stuff, and this way you save a lot of time and effort and to do due diligence. I didn't basically look at the pitch deck. I knew the guy, and that's what it is, right? So.
I think that you make a really good point there too. Sometimes getting into the angel investment world like this, you have to be able to, because it's an opportunistic environment, right? It really, really is. And sometimes when a good deal's on the table, like you got to make a decision quickly.
Yes, you have to move. I mean, think about it. It's obvious, right? I mean, when there's a really, really good deal on the table, like people are going to jump on it.
Right.
And do you really want to take the deal that has been shopped around for half a year and nobody flinched? Like, no, like you, and that's why you have to be fast and you have to make decisions quick. Obviously, this was an extreme scenario. You don't have have to do it within a day or hours. But I once thought about the idea of doing, I did do a venture fund once for like 6-7 years. And it did well. I did like an IRR of like 12.5% to invest after cost and fees. It was fine. It didn't do crazy well, but it did well because the problem I had there was I had an investment, how do you call it? Group or investment. Basically, like 4 or 5 people had to agree to investment.
Okay.
So I had a great idea, great company. I said, hey, this is a company. Let's meet and invest in a company. And they said, yeah, let's meet. The first thing you can do is like 6 weeks. I was like, well, 6 weeks, this deal is gone. So basically, you have to be fast.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it tomorrow, but you have to be fast, and you have to. The founder has to rely on you that you give them a fair chance and you look at it seriously, and even if the answer is no, like return to them within weeks, not months. And it's better to get a quick no than maybe forever.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something I know that when I first started, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and there were times I would see something, and I would forget to call the founder back, and that's one of my biggest regrets. And when I got started was that I can remember 3 or 4 people in the last 5.5 years that I forgot to call back. And that's one of my biggest regrets in starting to do this was forgetting to call back that founder. You
have to be fast, and you have to be
But and to your portfolio is a really good case study, Max, and just like taking a lot of risks in a systematic way and like diversifying your risks in a way that, like you're saying, not everything works out, but you're working with people you trust, and some of those are going to hit. So.
Yeah, and it's also some companies. The reason why I was talking about Tala, that's a company where I basically cut a check and send the check off, and never had to do anything for them because they were just so much better than I ever could be, and just basically got in the bus in the last seat, and it said, let's see where this journey goes. Right, you're not in the driver's seat whatsoever. Right, you're just along for the ride because those people got it figured out.
Right,
and there's other companies where you help more until they have it figured out.
Yep.
Yep.
And then Tala, Tala, you said?
Tala, yeah, T-A-L-A, yeah.
Another example of a tech-enabled company that seems to be your niche of companies that you're focused 100%. On. Yeah. So how does we were talking about Seafarer earlier? How does a company like Seafarer fit that bill? What's going on with them? What are you excited about for people that have never heard it before?
So Matt introduced me to Kyle, the CEO of Seafarer. When was it? I don't know, 2019.
I think it was. Yeah, it was
somewhere around then.
It was right around the time. It was right before 20, he and Tim met, I think.
Maybe 20. I don't know, somewhere around then.
Yeah.
So the first time, Matt and I, we met before, and he said, "Hey, when you meet this founder, he's a really cool company. It's a treasure hunting company." And obviously, me loving ocean history and science, so that's pretty cool. So we met in a restaurant somewhere between Vero Beach and Melbourne.
I still remember that meal. It was damn good.
It was like a Brazilian place, something like that, right?
But I was on, and it was on the water, and you and Kyle were talking, and I was just eating. I was just doing this, yes.
So, and Kyle, obviously being a super nice guy, had a great lunch. And I asked him, so how does this work? And he goes, well, we have a boat, and we have a potential wreck site. We have a wreck site with potentially treasure on it. And we have a magnetometer, which we basically pull behind the boat, and it shows us all the iron parts. And then we go back and dig up those iron parts and hope that next to those iron parts, we're going to find silver or gold. So, and then ask, so how many hits do you get on a wreck site? And I don't remember the exact. I think that's like 1,000. So I asked him how many can you dig up in a year?
Again, doing the math in your head, bro.
To verify, he goes 50 to 100. I said, well, you're gonna need 10 years in the best case scenario to figure out whether or not you have treasure on the site. And if you're not if you don't run out of money beforehand. I said, that's, cool, but it's not really something I would invest in. It seems to me like playing a lottery kind of thing, because you're not really looking directly for treasure. You're looking for other stuff that may or may not be close to treasure, and also a nail much further up in the sand may look, nail probably not, but like a big spike may look similar to like a cannon much further down on this MAC survey. And MAC also depends how high you fly and all those variables. And saying, this is, I'm sorry, but there's nothing more to do. And also, remember, I invest in about 0.5% of all the stuff I see. So I invest in every 200th company I see on average. Just bear it in mind, because I'm just, and I tell people that because they think they meet or talk or call or email, and that's like there's a 50-50 chance. No. So anyway, then, and as I met, sorry, but it's not what I do. And then they come back to me and say, hey, it's now a different model, or now different, or not, or wait, it's something like a new technology we're building or something like that. So then I listened to that part. I said, what? And then they told me, well, and I think I met Tim.
You met, I brought you to meet Tim.
Yeah, I think I met Tim because I think you wanted me to meet Tim.
I wanted you to see what he was doing and putting together.
Exactly.
To me, that's what changed the whole
dynamic.
Yeah. The whole dynamic.
And it does. Yes. No, you have to see it.
Yeah.
You really have to see to believe it.
Yep.
And really have to meet Tim to believe that he's capable of doing what he's supposed, or he says he's doing.
Right.
So I met Tim, Kyle, and you, and then they explained me what they want to build. The Sea Searcher, that's basically, and there's many other much better videos out there. I can explain it to a 5-year-old, and I'll try that now. It's basically a sonar that gives you an underground, under sand image, and there's a metal discriminator with help of AI and machine learning discriminates between different metal types. So the idea back then was we built that and we can say, okay, all this is iron, and right here is silver, and right here is gold. So we could basically fly over the site and not spend 10 years, but literally a few days to determine whether or not there's gold there, or silver, or treasure, whatsoever.
Right.
Then, now, since my background has always been tech-enabled companies, where companies get an advantage using technology, this is really interesting. So I started to slowly invest a little bit of money, and the more I got involved with Kyle and Tim, and the more I came to meetings, the more I kept investing in the company, and because I saw the progress, right? Usually what I do is if I can, if this is possible in this situation, I try to go on with a little bit, and then if I see progress and see the right things happening, I keep going. So yeah, I kept investing in Seafarer for ever since then, and kept and together with Kyle and Tim, try to help as much as I can. Again, I couldn't help much with the technology side because Tim doesn't really need help; he needs just time and to do it. I could help Kyle with expanding the network, back to the word again, so that we could easier raise funds that we need. So I opened up my network in Vero Beach, abroad in Germany, and we had a lot more investors involved to make sure the company never runs out of funding. Because that was one of my main, so when I looked at the company, I had like 3 risks identified. The first risk I thought was only like theoretical. It's like there's no treasure out there whatsoever. That once you know a little bit about history and about how Spain traveled those shores for 300 years, they lost like 10% of the ships. So there's like hundreds, if not thousands, ships out there, and a good amount of them had treasure on them. Yeah,
that was a strange thing to hear the first time for me. Is that it's an unmistakable fact that right. stuff is out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
correct.
That was my first thought because I didn't know back then, right? I had no idea until you always know it's called Treasure Coast, but nobody really thinks about it. So anyway, and then it's my first risk, and that risk I think is being taken care of. Second risk, I said, maybe this just doesn't work. mean, at the very beginning, it was a theory that the machine learning and those algorithms could determine whether or not this curve, the metal discriminated Cs, is gold, silver, brass, aluminum, whatever. And that was a theory. Now it looks like it can actually do that. You can determine whether it's gold, silver, or whatever. And the last risk was that they might run out of funding. So I thought about it. I said, if I open up a network and if we can deliver those results and show that the tech works, we are not going to run out of funding. Okay. And we have done that. Yeah. And so Matt's been a big part of that with Legacy Network. I mean, you raised most of the money, and I opened up. I added a few people from Vero Beach, from Germany, from wherever. So we all, so it's really a group effort.
And that's the power of a network.
Takes a village.
I mean, and that's what we're always telling the people that join our group is bend your network to our network. I mean, that's when it gets really, really powerful. Yeah. And that's what Max did. Like when Max said, first you actually joined our group before you became a partner, but he's all in. Like he just said, okay, I believe in this company. I believe in this company, and he bends his network, his capabilities, his personal funding, and the funding of the people that he brings to make the thing happen.
The common goal, yeah.
And that's
And also again, it's I looked at it like I've seen many companies in the last 15 years, and they all have a certain potential, but the way how Seafarer was structured, i.e., being a penny stock company, being a public company, and having had to raise all the money all those years to survive, they had to give out more shares, so they were very, very attractively priced. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, at like back then, 002, 003, 004 even back then when we invested, it was like a valuation of like $15 million. And I said, okay, the potential out there per rec is, I mean, there are recs out there which are worth $15 billion. But let's not go that far. Let's look at the Atosha, which was found off Key West in the 80s, and that was like a $400 million rec in the 80s, where silver was at like $5 an ounce. Now we're at $25 an ounce. So that would be times 5, so that would be a $2 billion rec. Let's just discount that half. Let's just put another layer on it and say it's a $1 billion rec. So if the company founded today, it's worth, you invested like $15, $20 million, and you're at $1 billion, it's a 50 times your money back. And that's just one rec. If you then add the fact, and by the way, your help with the channel and YouTube channel is helping a lot to get the word out. When people realize, well, shit, this wasn't luck. Mm-hmm. Those guys built the technology and the processes to repeat this over and over again. Mm-hmm. Then you should be worth more than one rec.
Right.
So I think, I don't know, but sometimes I'm optimistic, but I don't know, $4, $5, $6 billion valuation isn't really that crazy to me at this point. No. Then you would be at $1 a share. So I figured, okay, this is a pretty big upside. Yep. And again, the worst thing that can happen, my money's gone. Would I survive without the money? Yeah, nothing would really change. So why not take the risk?
Which also is a really good piece of little advice for guys that are peeling the layer back and trying to figure out if they want to do angel investing. Yeah, you'd count the cost. If your life would deeply change if you lost your investment, then you
shouldn't do it. No.
Yeah, you shouldn't do it. Yeah, so it's you want to be super disciplined in how you invest in this kind of stuff.
And the great thing is angel investing, especially with this rise of SPVs, like we do like at Legacy, you can start at relatively low amounts. Yeah. And the learning is the same. Yep. Whether you put 5,000 into a company or 500,000 into a company, you will learn the same, whether it fails or it doesn't fail or it makes it. So you can really learn a lot. It's probably much better investment than an MBA. And you can learn a lot from that, especially when you're hands-on at really small ticket prices, especially with somebody like Legacy, which pools, because no company wants 50 investors with $5,000 on balance on their cap table. You wouldn't want, because a messy cap table is the worst thing you can have.
Yep.
But when you pool those people in the SPV, like we do here at Legacy, and they are allowed to be like hands-on and support and learn, I think that's probably a better investment than an MBA.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so.
I'm no financial advisor, but I agree with Max 110%.
The way you put that, Max.
Yeah.
Just and I your Seafarer, like what is the word I'm looking for? Not analogy. Anyway, like the story you told there made a lot of sense. You know, listening to just where we're so involved with the media now, listening to other people that are putting out media on the Treasure Coast. I heard somebody say, or another expert that's out diving saying like, yeah, things are so much different now. Now we have modern technology like the magnetometer.
Yeah.
It's like, and the thing about that is like the magnetometer just leaves so much still ambiguous. Like you can find valuable hits on the magnetometer and spend 10 years and find nothing on that site, you know?
But, you know, I mean, even the magnetometer, you're right, it's relatively modern. It's like still like 50 years old, right?
Right.
I was talking to Tim the other day about our latest development we are planning, which is like a, you know, next version of the Sea Searcher. It's something you could not have built 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Mm.
The tech didn't even exist 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
The new chips we put on there, the new AI machine learning included chips that all on one thing. They just came out 2 years, something like that ago.
And here's the deal, man. Talking to Tim earlier, what's very clear in his conversation is like the man is not, it's not a money motivated thing where he's just trying to slap the quickest thing together that might turn a result. Like Tim is invested in making the best piece of tech that exists, you know?
No, he doesn't.
Because I mean, that's
quality over
Tim's
quantity.
legacy. Like that's what stuff like that, creating those things and doing that kind of work is the stuff that he wants to leave behind for other people to improve on. Like that's like the nature of like who he is. I mean, he doesn't hate money by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not motivated so much by the money as he is the journey, the exploration, the study, the creation, watching it succeed, like that.
And just making the best possible thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the guy built up a company, Cineticom, right? This thing they developed over like 200 products for DoD and commercial, and then he sold it off. He could have retired. I think he did temporarily retire.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he couldn't sit still. I need to create more. I need to keep doing this. Like I want to repeat these processes. I want to make it better. I want to do this and that. And that's really where all this particular project. I watched him do a lot of projects. This particular project, he's freaking just excited. He just loves it. Absolutely.
And it is exciting. I mean, this is what I'm, you know, I mean, sure, I'd like to make money with that.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure we all will.
We will.
But the fact that I get to go diving, so I've been scuba diving since I was 15 years old. I'm a petty dive master. However, I hadn't been in the water for like 20 years until like half a year ago again. So I went back to scuba diving with those guys to go down. And it's partially, it's really cool. Partially, it's like super low visibility. So you have like visibility like that far, and that's all you see. You just go with the flow and just dive down there, and you, well, we can't dig yet, but once we can dig, you know, once we get this permit and we can actually dig up the targets that we are seeing, it's going to be super exciting. So I can't wait to go back down there. But the part of the fact that it's history, it's science, it's oceans. I think in my bio, it literally says, love oceans, history, love science, oceans, history, and food, something like that. Yeah. So it's all that.
I saw that out that I wasn't included in that.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
You didn't include me in your bio.
Let's grab a quick some more water. Real quick.
Oh, what's that?
Can we grab some more water?
Oh, yeah, man.
Should I take a break?
No worries. Yeah, that's cool.
Something that we try and do in our little Legacy Angel Network business, because it's kind of who we are as people anyway. Like, you know, I know my why. Like my why is I I inherently kind of just love people, and I love gathering people and around good things, and that's just kind of like my thing, right? Everyone's got different motivations for doing what they do, and reasons that they choose the paths that they choose. And there's the stuff that we talk about. There's like, well, if you make this decision, you're gonna reap this reward or this return, and if I invest in this, I do X, Y, and Z. But what makes Max tick? Like what are the things that are pretty important to you, that you kind of always fall back on, and the things that drive you I would even say from an ethical standpoint? Like what are the your driving points, your driving things?
So it's a good question. I think I know that I love the entrepreneurial journey, fighting all the obstacles, and one day, you never really have made it because you always keep going, and always a new problem ahead. But I just love the journey, and I wanted to be part of as many of those journeys as possible. I want to work with many people as possible, and usually when you do angel investing, you tend to work with very talented, super smart, hardworking people.
Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah. Usually.
Yeah, usually.
It's a usually.
Yeah.
So that's really inspiring. I mean, when you see people who just grow that much, and while you work with them or during the time, and just grow from a founder who has an idea to like another friend of mine in Germany, Dirk Graber, who built this company. I remember I met him, and it was like 5 guys in a room, like a quarter of this room, right? Like a really small room. And now it's like, I don't know how many employees he has, I think 1,000. And they're doing like really big company. I love to see the journey. I love the fact, like with Selfish, we have like roughly 50, 60 employees right now. And you put 50, 60 people into a job. Mm-hmm. And also at the same time, it's very a lot of pressure because you are kind of in charge for those people. Mm-hmm. Not me as an investor, not directly, but also like kind of indirectly.
Yeah.
But I enjoy that, and I enjoy the journey, and I think entrepreneurs is the way to go for economy to thrive, right? A lot of people, and that's also part of the reason why I moved to the US. I just love the system. I love the entrepreneurial spirit in the US. Everybody has like a side hustle going on.
Right.
In Germany, there's entrepreneurs too. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them, but it's still a lot of people just have their same job for a whole life, which is fine. But I just prefer the other way, and I just love working with people who just have a big vision, and I like to help them with achieving that.
Well, you're good at doing it, man. You're good at doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose of the community, right? I mean, it's just high quality people, like people that the relationships are symbiotic or synergistic. You're improving each other and learning from one another and just making each other's lives better. That's what it's about for sure.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your wisdom and guidance. No, I mean it's 100% true. One of the reasons why we've been able to grow, and we're still in our infancy, it feels like. But we have been able to, is because guys like Max have surrounded me.
For sure.
Guys like you, quite frankly, Connor, and your wonderful wife, Aubrey. Like, really good people are coming around this and making us better. And, so I just appreciate it, and appreciate you, and cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Cheers, Max. Appreciate you, man.
On, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. Max, Thyssen, everyone. Cheers.